Ha! How are you? Great to have you, Rush Limbaugh, the EIB Network, and the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Conservative Studies. I am Rush Limbaugh, America's real anchorman, and a doctor of democracy, and America's truth detector, a general all-round good guy, harmless, lovable little fuzzball. And I am also the arbitrator of what is right. Great to have you here, folks. A telephone number, if you want to be on the program, 800-282-2882. I hope you will indulge me. I want to do an economics lesson. It's not related to anything to do with the shutdown or with Obamacare or with the exchanges or any of that. And it comes, once again, from my hobby, perusing tech media, tech blogs. But it hit a button. I think one of the reasons why I like accessing these blogs is because they push my buttons. Who are these people? It's very important, I think. For some reason, I think it's you know, as we are all concerned with the future of the country, the youths and young people, the attitudes they have, the values they have, it all matters in terms of what the country's going to be. And I don't mean to say that these tech bloggers are representative of the body politic or of the young population at large. I don't know that. I'm not even assuming it. But this little exercise, I love learning about economics. Basic Economics 101. It's the most complicated, simple subject there is. And, our good sponsor, Hillsdale, has their online course, Economics 101, so we're talking about that here. But this started, I was reading a blog, and it's some young blogger all upset at Verizon. Now, one of the things that I have encountered, and I don't know why this matters to me. Well, I do know why it matters to me. I think it's totally unrealistic, and it's as I read these tech bloggers, there are a number of things that are thematic to them that you can typecast about them. Now, these are media people. They're journalists to one degree or another. Keep that in mind. Many of them are non-ideological and even apolitical. But I'm amazed at the number of them who expect things to be given to them and who will literally criticize companies for not making things available free. Now, we all like free, don't misunderstand, but it's not realistic to expect that everything should be free. And oftentimes companies, tech or otherwise, get ripped to shreds by these people when things aren't free, when they're more expensive or whatever. Now, this case, this involved one of these young bloggers, and this is going to have mass appeal, so stick with me on this, because it's Econ 101. This guy writes a blog post about how he's so mad at Verizon. He is spending $20 a month for a Verizon LTE plan on his phone that gives him 2 gigabytes of usage for $20 a month. And he's angry. He's so angry at what Verizon is doing to him that the whole point of his blog post was how he is doing everything he can to avoid using it. He's going anywhere he can find Wi-Fi because he's very angry at Verizon for overcharging his 2 gigabytes a month of wireless data over the LTE network at $20. Because if he goes over that, if you use more than you pay for, they do soak you. Now, the fact of the matter is that pricing structure by Verizon is working exactly as Verizon intends it. And that's what I want to try to... This little guy is livid that they should charge him $20 a month for 2 gigabytes. And it's so little that if he goes over it, it's going to be so much more expensive. He tries not to use it. And he thinks Verizon needs to be castigated for this. And this, I have found, is a recurring theme in the tech world. The cellular carriers are evil, mean-spirited capitalists who are damned because they're trying to make money. Yet the Googles of the world are angels because they are trying to save the world. Google gives all of their stuff away, but they don't. But the appearance is that Google does. Now, never mind the fact that the Google guys are multiple billionaires. That's okay, because Google is giving their stuff away, and these cads at Verizon have the audacity to charge this little guy $20 a month for his precious little 2 gigs. So what did Verizon do? Along with AT&T and everybody, Verizon puts in this LTE network, which cost a lot of money to build. They invested a lot of money in an expensive network, and they did this because of market demand. There are people who want to be able to have those kinds of download speeds for data on their phones so that they can watch video or whatever, and they are willing to pay for it. People like it. LTE, 4G, whatever you want to call it, exists because people are willing to pay for it, except this little guy isn't, and that's Verizon's fault as far as he's concerned. People like it so much, in fact, and this is where the lesson begins, people like it so much that Verizon has to do something to ration access to their network. AT&T does too. I'm not just using Verizon because he wrote his piece about them. These networks have to do something to ration access. Otherwise, if everybody were accessing it, the high-speed aspect would go away because the network would be clogged. And so how do they ration it? They do it with price. And what they price charging you for the data you consume. Now, in other contexts, this is thought to be fair and equitable, and nobody has a problem with it. In cable TV, the scream there is that the carriers force you to pay for all the stuff you don't watch, and that the government should force the cable companies and satellite providers to price not on a fixed bundle basis, but a la carte. You can't make these people happy no matter what, because they're always looking for something for nothing. And they expect businesses to price themselves that way. And you can't do that. And the reason why this matters to me is because these are young people. If they don't understand this, and if they don't learn it, we are in big trouble down there as these people become adults and the shock of reality hits them. Now, the cable companies, they provide... They bundle all this stuff and they charge you for it. In wireless, the cell carriers are just the opposite. They have gone from one price serves all to pay for what you use. So you can buy this many gigs for this amount of money per month, or you can buy unlimited. You can, whatever you want to pay for, you can get. But for those who are paying the least, Verizon is happy if they don't use the network. That is the point. They have to ration usage. Otherwise, their network isn't going to provide the service people are demanding. High speed. The bigger load you put on it, the better. So Verizon here is faced with servicing its customers. Now, which customers is it going to consider to be the most valuable? The people who use it. The people who use it and pay for it. Now, this guy who pushed my buttons, he finds that he doesn't have to use it. He can go Wi-Fi, and he can screw Verizon. Yeah, And that's good. Verizon should be screwed. So he's either a cheapskate or what have you. But he'll just wait. He won't use. His whole piece is based on how he tries to avoid using it simply because Verizon is raping him $20 a month for 2 gigabytes of data. However, now we add to it, this guy happens to be a pundit. And he thinks that he's making an important social comment. So he has to tell the reader how silly it is for the wireless carrier to make him not use their network. In fact, and this again is the lesson, it is efficient and it is completely straightforward for the carrier to price usage such that the highest valued customers and users get access, uncluttered and unimpeded by low-valued users who can wait until they get access via Wi-Fi. Why should Verizon care as much about somebody who doesn't even want to use the data, so little that he's not even willing to pay for it? And yet this guy's getting all ticked off because he thinks he's getting ripped off. He thinks Verizon is targeting him and people like him to rip him off when the exact opposite is happening. They're making it available at a price that he can afford, but it isn't enough. He wants more for nothing. In the meanwhile, Verizon has people willing to pay for it, are paying for it, and they have expectations that high speed is going to be high speed. And the only way they can do that is to make sure their network isn't clogged, and they do that with price. It's amazing how price works. Price is one of the greatest rationers there is. This all makes perfect economic sense, and there's no animosity in it. It's strictly business. It is unfettered, full-fledged capitalism. And this guy finds a problem with it because they don't care about the little guy. And so he wants everybody to do what he's doing. Screw it, not use them. And frankly, that'd be fine. Because while he bumps out of the network, that leaves more data for everybody else at high speed. And the claims that Verizon makes about speed delivery and all that on their LTE network will be borne out. So it all works. In the meantime, this guy's not being denied anything. He's the one denying himself by being all haughty and John Kerry-like. Now, the thing about this that well, cable is all different. As I said, cable, the cable being fixed price rather than a la carte it makes sense too. And the difference is consumption. The consumption of the cable networks does not exclude other consumption. The programs are public goods. If you watch ESPN, it doesn't lessen the amount of ESPN. In other words, the more people watching ESPN doesn't affect your quality of ESPN. The more people using a data network, the more deterioration there's going to be in the network. And the provider doesn't want that deterioration, so he rations it with price. But it's this expectation that companies give it away that troubles me. And this desire, and I understand it's nothing new, and I'm probably making a mistake by making too big a deal out of this. But I have one of my pet peeves is people who want something for nothing and expect something for nothing. People who do not accept the notion that they should pay for what they get. To me, it's a personal responsibility issue. And the notion that corporations or businesses are charities and that they're there to provide health care or jobs for the community is it's asinine, and it's not at all. And yet this is how economics is taught. This is how liberals teach young people what a corporation is. If a corporation doesn't do what a liberal thinks, and they come in for high criticism and they're ripped to shreds, and they end up on the Democrat Party enemies list. And it just all adds up to an ignorant and I mean ignorant, know nothing, not stupid, bunch of people who have unrealistic expectations of something for nothing. And then when you have a political party that comes along and is willing to provide that, then you get real trouble. And that's where we are. But in this instance, this guy's attitude is exactly what should happen based on what the carrier here is seeking to do. They're making their service available. Here's the price for what you get. And it just isn't enough for this little guy. So, well, I'm just not going to use them. And that's Verizon's fault. Carrier's fault, as far as he's concerned. And he doesn't understand what's going on. But see, the market comes through. He doesn't have to use them when he gets mad. There's Wi-Fi out there. There's any other kind of option he can choose. So he's not being screwed. He just wants to go through life thinking he is. And that just offends me. I'm sorry. And I had to get that off my chest. Back after this, folks. Don't go.